Welcome to my review for Army of Darkness, aka Evil Dead 3. They really should have called it that, shouldn't they? Evil Dead 3. But you know what? I'm not surprised. The amount of weird choices this franchise makes. If you recall the ending of number 2, Ash was thrown back towards the year 1300 with his trusty chainsaw and shotgun. So, as you can imagine, the goal for this third film is to get him back to the future. But you may also recall at the end of number 2 that we saw him dumped into the past and he shot this pterodactyl and became a hero of the night. Well, that's all gone now. For the second straight film, there's been some weird retconning of events we've seen before. And now, instead of doing all that cool stuff, Ash just gets thrown in chains and led off to the local castle. And I was watching this movie and I thought to myself, have they just done this to troll the people who maybe criticised the previous film's opening? And then I thought, well, actually, maybe they've done it because otherwise they wouldn't be able to have the whole sequence with Ash in the spike pit and proving himself. After the film, I went online to see which of the two it was, and it was neither. It was just another rights issue. I mean, come on, sort it out, guys. The only thing I'll say is it didn't bother me as much this time around as it did at the start of Evil Dead 2, because that is a film that I would love to kind of touch up and make it even more perfect, but when it comes to Army of Darkness, I'm not as bothered. And the reason for that is that we're very much into comedy, horror territory now. There's literally hardly anything in this film which is played serious. It's all done for laughs. The first Evil Dead was like 90% horror, 10% comedy. Second film was maybe 60% horror, 40% comedy. And this one, it's 5% horror, 95% comedy, if that. I mean, there were parts that I laughed at now and again, but it was very sporadic throughout the film. I would chuckle now and again at something that was going on, but probably not as much as some people. I think this is the kind of film that if you watch it with other people with a beer, you could really have a good time with it. But me watching it by myself, and I'm not even a big comedy horror man, it was never going to be a classic for me. The scenes that I enjoyed the most were just kind of the potential death scenes for Ash that if it, in a more serious movie, might have been a real kind of edge of your seat moment. So the spike trap that I touched on earlier, I liked that. Fighting demons with these spiked walls coming towards him and then he has to try and get out somehow. And that was a good scene that was just ruined by a bit of silliness where the chainsaw just conveniently lands on his stump. I mean, that's not funny, but it is silly. There's this other scene where he's in this windmill and all these miniature Ashes start attacking him. I found that funny and sort of exciting at the same time. And Bruce Campbell's physical acting, I said this in the second film when he was trying to sort of pretend to have his hand attack him. In this, he's playing all these little pixie versions of Ash and he's just brilliant at, you know, kind of going, "Aah," and all that kind of silly stuff he does with his face. It's really good. Another scene as well is the one where he has to fetch the mnemonic. I can't pronounce the name of the book in this series. Mnemonomic. Oh, it's like trying to say the word phenomenon. It took me years to learn how to say the word phenomenon. It's going to take me equally long to learn how to say mnemonomicon. Is that right? So he tries to get the mnemonomicon, but when he gets there, there's 3 books, not 1, and he has to choose the right one. So obviously he chooses the wrong one twice, and he almost gets killed for it. But I just found that really interesting. And is there any point to these other 2 books, or are they just decoys? Because it really sort of, I'm curious to know, are there like more than one Mnemonomicon books in this world of the Evil Dead that have all got a point to them? But who knows? Ash gets a love interest in this film, which is really odd because his girlfriend died like less than 24 hours ago or something. I suppose he's not treating it that seriously. He's just sort of using this maiden. I thought all the stuff to do with the skeletons was pretty good. I mean, the special effects on the whole throughout the film are extremely ropey, to say the least. It's hard to believe this is a film from the mid-90s. It feels like it was something from the early 80s at times. I'm guessing the budget wasn't that high. There's some really dodgy stuff, but all the stuff to do with the skeletons is actually pretty impressive. Skeletons, they did really well in this film. It looks really seamless, but everything else, not so much. I guess maybe the effects being sort of dodgy are part of the film's charm, maybe, but I liked the leader of the skeletons. He had this weird thing going on with his mouth. He had this really funny scene at one point as well where he muttered something under his breath, and I did chuckle at it. I can't remember what it was, but it was funny. Although the way that they kill him or finish with him in the end on that catapult, that's just kind of lame as well. The other ending where Ash goes back to the future and he's in the kind of convenience store again, wasn't massively sold on that. It felt like an ending that was just for this film rather than the overall trilogy, if you see what I mean. I would have liked a bit more reflection on all the events that he's been through throughout 1, 2 and 3, rather than just having a look on his face like he's just pleased to have survived going back in time for a few hours or a day. And where did that demon come from that he fights? Did that just travel through the vortex with him for one last fight? It's kind of strange, shall we say. Apparently there was going to be a different ending originally where he said the words wrong and went forward into the future, and that would have been really cool, having another sequel where Ash was battling demons in a world with robots and things. I mean, I can't even imagine, but it would have been really interesting. On my Blu-ray, got the Blu-ray for this, and it says on the back alternative ending, so I thought, oh well, maybe I'll get to see something like that. So I went in the menus. There's no alternative ending in the menus. There's 4 deleted scenes, but none of them are an alternative ending, so kind of strange, I guess. So what are my thoughts on the whole? It's definitely the weakest of the 3 movies in the trilogy for me, although it is in really good company with Evil Dead 1 and 2. I do enjoy it somewhat, but there's part of me that feels slightly sad when I'm watching this that they didn't, go a more serious route after the masterpiece that was Evil Dead 1. I mean, I'm not so much of a killjoy that I would call this a bad film or a poor one. It is good. I can appreciate that other people would probably enjoy it more than me, and I guess the best thing I can say is that in the future, if I'm doing another Evil Dead marathon, which I will do at some point, I don't think I'm going to skip past this. I think I'm still going to watch it and give it another chance. That's a positive thing for me. So let's get to the Bag of Terror and find out what sort of score I've given Army of Darkness. We've got 1, 2, 2.5 bloody axes for the film, so a kind of neutral score. I think that's about right for me personally, but I think probably the majority of people would give it slightly more than that. Now, there's no pin for the horror locations board. I'm not sure where this film was set. It feels maybe in medieval England, possibly, but I don't know. I'm not going onto the map with this one. Anyway, so I'll be back soon with a review for the remake of The Evil Dead. I'm really looking forward to that. Some of the images I've seen look quite good, really appeal to me, and I think we could be getting a more serious film with that. We'll see. So until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.